Well, thanks everyone. Wonderful to see you all here, and we're all now assembled, so just a little bit behind time, but flexibility is a key principle of war, as we all know, so we'll be fine. So I'll get things rolling if I may. First of all, if you don't know me, Michael Annett, I'm the National President of the Defence Reserves Association. And if you don't know me, there's a little, amongst other things on your chairs, there's a little article that I've penned recently about the Defence Reserves Association position on a number of things. You can find out all about me by reading the end of that little article. But don't do that unless you're really bored, please. So, all good. First thing I should do, of course, is to acknowledge the Gadigal people as the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I make this acknowledgement on behalf of all of us that are presenting and speaking today. So in the interest of keeping the program rolling, we don't necessarily need to restate it. And also, while I'm making announcements like that kind, I'll also just make the point that I am introducing everybody today, and I hope you'll forgive me if I use some abridged biographies of people. Everyone tells me when they get introduced they don't want me to talk for that long about their bio, so guess what? Your wish is granted today. I'll be doing that. In terms of an initial welcome, I should just note the formal apologies first. We have received an apology from the Minister for Veterans Affairs and Defence Personnel, Matt Keogh, but we are very pleased that we have Assistant Minister Matt Thistlethwaite here representing, and so pleased, and I'll introduce you separately shortly, Minister, but of course it's wonderful to see you back here because you did open our conference in Brisbane last year. We have apologies from the Chief of the Defence Force, Admiral David Johnston. He was coming to quite recently, but we always thought we would be very lucky if we had the CDF, given he's only recently assumed his role, and we are so delighted to have Lieutenant General Natasha Fox, both in her own capacity here today and also speaking on behalf of the Chief of the Defence Force. Our immediate past President, Major General Jim Barry, retired, would normally be here today, but he's in Melbourne, and Jim sends his best but sends his apologies as well formally. And for many years we also have always had Neil James, the Director of the Australian Defence Association, attend these conferences. He's often been the person running the panel discussion and Q&A. Neil's in the middle of moving house at the moment, and many of us have been in that position many times before, so we know how stressful that can be. So Neil sends his apologies as well. I'd also like to welcome all my fellow members of the DRA National Executive, including our immediate past President Paul Irving and our National Deputy President Ian Flouth. I'd like to welcome all our guests and presenters, and especially those that are online. We have a significant audience today online as well, so that's wonderful. And we hope that you'll feel fully engaged and able to participate in today's proceedings. I should also note that we invited the functional commanders here in Sydney, the Fleet Commander, Forces Commander and the Air Commander, and I should just acknowledge that we have representatives here today from Forces Commander, Brigadier Tim Orders, who's here. Welcome, Tim. And also the Air Commander, we have Wing Commander Wilma Tennant here today. So Wilma, fantastic to have you here. Fleet Commander was indisposed today, so Rear Admiral Smith certainly sent his apologies, but of course he knew that we would have Commodore Tish Van Stralen here representing the senior service, and of course our congratulations as well to Tish on her impending promotion to Rear Admiral, taking over from Wade Stoddart, which is fantastic. Okay, so look, I did just want to throw, we're in a very significant place today, of course, the Anzac Memorial at Hyde Park, and I did just want to give our immediate past President Paul Irving, who largely through his good offices that we find ourselves able to use this venue today, and Paul just wanted to make some admin comments and some other remarks about a remembrance ceremony that those of us that are here at 11 o'clock will all take part in. Paul.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome all to this wonderful historic Anzac Memorial. I operate the RUSI New South Wales Library here, which is now part of the memorial. We moved here on the centenary of Anzac when this wonderful underground part was completed, and our library is a library of national significance, and we're 136 years old this month. We started in 1888, in August 1888. And it's now, we are the oldest defence think tank in Australia. But we have a library of national significance, and we work very closely with the memorial. We've got over 25,000 books and 800 maps, and we've got some books that are not available anywhere in Australia. So I urge you, while you've got a chance, either at morning tea or at lunch, to come and visit the library, which is diagonally opposite behind the security desk. We work very closely with the memorial staff. We've got a wonderful working relationship with them. So I would just quickly give you a little brief background about the memorial. Of course, after World War I, 61,500 men died, 155,000 wounded. There wouldn't have been a family in Australia that didn't know someone who was wounded or killed in the First World War. And so the committee was formed to create a memorial similar to what was happening in Melbourne with the Shrine of Remembrance. This was unique about this particular memorial was it was in fact a veterans hub, but they didn't call it a veterans hub in those days. The ex-service organisations worked out of here, including the RSL, so Roden Cutler had his office here. The doctors would come and fit prosthetic limbs on weekends. They used to run a dance hall for the lame and limbless, as you appreciate that the soldiers that came back missing a limb were often treated as heroes, but the ones that came back badly maimed through shell explosions, etc., were treated more like lepers, because plastic surgery was very much in its infancy at the end of the First World War. And so they used to run a little dance hall here for the lame and limbless. They used to run a bank. There's a whole series of services here for veterans after when this building was opened. This extension, which is the New South Wales Hall of Service, it was opened in 2018 by Prince Harry in accordance with the custom within this building. The plaque that is on the wall as you walk out through the water cascades towards Liverpool Street says this extension was opened by the grandson of the Queen. There is no name. When the Duke of Gloucester opened the building in 1934 and he came here to open the Shrine of Remembrance in Melbourne and also the Anzac Memorial, this plaque upstairs facing Elizabeth Street outside says this building was opened by a son of the King. There is no names. The two foundation stones on the western side, which were laid on the 19th of July in 1932, which you would appreciate was the remembrance of the Battle of Fromelles, when we had the largest loss of life in any conflict, in 24 hours in any conflict that Australia's been involved in since the Boer War. And the two foundation stones say, laid by a citizen of the state was the Premier, and the other one laid by a soldier of the state happened to be Sir Philip Game, the Governor. No names of those VIPs are in the memorial. In this, the sculptor that did the magnificent artwork was a fellow called Rayner Hoff, a British World War I soldier, and he came to Sydney as the head teacher, art and design at East Sydney Technical College up at Darlinghurst behind the courts complex at Darlinghurst where the National Art School is today. And he worked very closely with Brigadier Bede Heritage, who was the Commandant of Royal Military College Duntroon and was also the President of RUSI New South Wales, because during the Depression years they brought the RMC up to Victoria Barracks in Sydney. And he provided the sculpture with a lot of the uniforms and equipment to do his sculptures with. When you go outside on this immediate wall, there's a replica of the bas relief that's on the western side of the memorial, and it shows the Western Front. The one on the other side, it shows the Gallipoli, Sinai and Palestine, and it's exact replica of what's on the east and west walls and the bas reliefs, but these are ones that are designed so a visually impaired person can put their hands over it and feel the three dimensions. I can feel the bayonet, the horse's stirrups, the guns, etc. At 11 o'clock, at 5 to 11, we'll finish, and we'll walk upstairs to the top level, which is the Hall of Memory, and then look at the magnificent sacrifice, the statue that he did, which is the Spartan warrior, came back dead on his shield and sword, supported by his grieving family, his wife and child, mother and sister. and we'll do a short last post service there, which goes for 3 or 4 minutes at 11 o'clock, and you'll be asked to throw a gold star into the well of contemplation, and that will be a name of a first AIF soldier on that star, to reflect on those that are dead. And when you look up to the top of the dome, there's 120,000 gold stars there, and those gold stars represent the number of men and women from New South Wales who enlisted in the First World War. There was actually more than 120,000, but nevertheless, they ran out of money to finish the building, so the Women's Guild sold these gold stars at 20 cents each, which is worth about $40 today's terms, to help finish the building. Because, as I said, they built it in 1932 to 34, and of course that was in the height of the Depression. The sculpture also did, when you walk outside in the New South Wales Hall of Service, around the walls of the soil from the places where men and women enlisted in the first AIF, and some beautiful vases with flowers that were very popular in World War I, that was done by an artist called Fiona Nash. If you look up through the oculus up to the top, you'll see there's four very large statues. One's an Air Force, a naval officer, an army officer, an Air Force officer, and a matron. And then underneath that, the sitting statues are what we'd call the trades classifications: the nurse, the signaller, the driver, the bomber, etc. They've been replicated again in 3D technology, and they're in an exhibition gallery over on the opposite side, and I would urge you to have a look at that. There's a whole series of stories there. Under each section, a naval section, an army section, a medical section, and an Air Force section, of stories of men and women in various conflicts over the last 100 plus years, and it's telling the stories of men and women who have served in New South Wales over those years. So I urge you to have a look, and you can actually see the detail of those statues better than you can by looking at the top of the memorial. So that's a little bit about the memorial. I urge you to take the opportunity while you're here to have a look at the exhibition gallery, have a look at the RUSI library, and I said we will be finishing about 5 to 11. You can walk up the stairs, or those a little bit less mobile, there's a escalator that'll take you up to the next step, and then you can go up one more. So you've got to go to the very top. And the intention was that this was a place where the population would come and visit the dead, to pay respects to the dead, because in many cases there was no known grave, and in most cases there was no way that Australians could get overseas to try and pay their respects to their loved ones that were buried in some part of Belgium, France, Gallipoli, Sinai, Palestine, etc. So that's a little bit about the library and about the memorial, and please take the opportunity to visit and have a look. It's some wonderful exhibitions here, and I hope you enjoyed today. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We are very conscious of the privilege of being able to hold our conference here today. It's a magnificent tribute to the women and men of New South Wales who served. And don't worry, at 5 to 11 we won't forget, and we'll get you all up there. Between Paul and I'm sure we'll get you up to where we need to be by 11 o'clock. Look, I just wanted to say, before I introduce the Assistant Minister for Immigration, just a couple of words upon the sequence of today. There are regular breaks during the day. You've seen that in your program, which is hot off the press. We've had to make some adjustments even during the course of this week, but it's we're very happy that we've got everybody now, and there'll be opportunities for Q&A across the program. We're very grateful for the support of Defence through Reserves and Cadet Support Division, and also Defence Bank, and of course who have provided sponsorship and resources to support today's conference, and we're very grateful for that. We are a small organisation, all volunteers, and we could not do this sort of thing were it not for the support of those who support us. So thank you very much. And of course, also we're grateful to the management of the Anzac Memorial here at Hyde Park, as Paul has alluded to. The last thing I wanted to do is just make the point that we have here today Major Andrew Hargraves, and I might just ask Andrew to come forward. Major Hargraves was awarded the Defence Reserves Association Prize for Commendable Performance on the Australian Command and Staff course, the remote version of that course, and that's a prestigious award presented to the individual for academic excellence across the year-long course. As many of you would be aware, That course is what we do to prepare people for more senior ranks, and people normally attend at the rank of Major. And Andrew has really done tremendous credit to himself and his profession, both his professions, civil and military, in terms of taking out that prize. Andrew is an engineer officer in the Australian Army Reserve, and across his career he's served in a wide range of regimental training and staff positions, 2nd Combat Engineer Regiment, 5th Engineer Regiment, and both Sydney and University of New South Wales regiments, Headquarters 8 Brigade, Army Headquarters, Defence People Group, so a very wide spectrum of experience. And he's been the recipient of a range of awards throughout his career already, and he was awarded the Major General Sir Victor Windeyer Award at Sydney University Regiment, and that enabled him to do an exchange with the 7th Battalion, the Rifles Regiment in the United Kingdom, and while at 5 Engineer Regiment he was the recipient of the Prince of Wales Award. In his civilian career, Andrew is a New South Wales Deputy Chief Pharmacist and a Senior Executive at New South Wales Health. Currently, he leads a team of operational medicine regulators and is responsible for providing advice to government on medicines and their regulation policy. So a key role in public administration, as well as his exemplary record as a military officer, and that just underscores the importance of our reserve component. So congratulations.